we are back with Chapter 9, Measurement and Geometry, focusing on Lesson 5, Volume of Prisms and Cylinders. So the volume of a three-dimensional figure is the amount of space it takes up. Volume is measured in cubic units. Okay, so when we talked about area was talked about, it was measured in squared units, but now volume is going to be measured in cubic units. And we write that as units cubed, like that. Okay? So we have this shape over here. We're trying to figure out the volume. That's how much space this whole thing takes up. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what is the amount of space that this bottom layer, if you look at it, it's really in layers. There's a bottom layer, there's a middle layer, and then there's a top layer of blocks. So we're going to figure out how many cubes there are in the bottom layer. So if you see, it's 2 cubes wide and 3 cubes long. So the easiest way to determine that would just be to go, how many cubes are in the bottom would be to go 3 times 2, which would give us 6 cubes. There are 6 cubes in the bottom layer. Now the 6, they're kind of hidden, right? But the bottom layer is just like the top layer. And so if you look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 6 cubes there. Now the next thing we're going to look at are how many layers of cubes are there. So this would be 1 layer, that would be a 2nd layer, and this would be a 3rd layer. Okay, so there's 3 layers of cubes. So to figure out the volume of this entire figure, how much space this whole thing, this whole three-dimensional figure holds, we're going to multiply the number of cubes in the bottom layer by the number of layers total. So multiply the number of cubes in the bottom layer. Okay, so that would be here. This is 6 is the number of cubes in the bottom layer. We're going to take that number and multiply it by the number of layers. And there were 3 layers in the cube. So to find the volume, we're just going to multiply those two numbers together. 6 times 3 ends up being 18. So the volume of this cube figure is 18 cubic units. That's how you determine it, was finding the bottom layer and then multiplying it by the number of layers, finding how many cubes are in the bottom and then multiplying it by the number of layers of cubes. So the volume of a prism or cylinder is the area of the base times its height. So the volume is found by finding the area of its base, so area of its base times the height. That's how you determine the volume. So it's going to be the base, the area of the base times the height. So you'll see this, volume equals base times height, or V equals, and you'll see a big B. And whenever you see this big B, that's referring to the area of the base multiplied by the height. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and apply this formula to our next problem. Okay, our next problem states, what is the shape of the base? So when we look at this next problem here, I'm going to bring it up here. What is the shape of the base? Well, what I see is I see a triangle on the base. There's a triangle on top. So this to me looks like it's a triangular prism. So the shape of the base is a triangle. Now what the formula says is we need to find the area of the base. So since the base is a triangle, we need to find the area of this triangle, and the area of the base of a triangle equals 1/2 base times height. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and determine what that value is. So base equals 1/2 times the base, we're going to call that 6. So B is going to equal 6, and the height is going to equal 3. And we're just going to plug in the value. So 1/2 base is 6 times 3 equals, well, if we go 6 times 3, that's 18. If we take 1/2 of 18, a half of 18 would be 9. So that means the area of this base right here, the area of this base ends up being 9 inches squared. Okay? Now we know what the base is. Now we need to determine, well, what is the height? Well, the height of this figure is 5 inches. So the volume of the entire figure is found by taking the base and multiplying it by the height. So if the base is 9 inches and the height is 5 inches, we find the volume by going 9 times 5, which is 45 inches cubed, which is the volume of this figure here. All right, let's go ahead and look at a different problem here. We're going to find the volume of the cylinder to the nearest whole number, okay? So we're going to find the volume of the cylinder to the nearest whole number. So we're looking at a cylinder. So the first thing we want to determine is, well, what is the shape of the base? And the shape of this base is a circle. So we have to find the area. If we're trying to find the volume, the volume is found by taking the base, the area of the base, and multiplying it by the height. So we have to find the area of this circle, okay? We know that the formula for the area of the circle is area equals pi r squared, radius squared. So the area is going to equal 3.14 times r, our radius. I'm going to define that as equal to 4, so I'm going to stick that in there, 4 squared. And I'm actually going to just take this down here so I have a little bit more room to work. So we have area equals 3.14 times 4 squared. I have to do the order of operations, which would say I have to do the exponents first. So 4 squared is the same thing as 4 times 4, which would be 16. So I'm going to substitute 16 in for 4 squared. So area equals 3.14 times 16. And then I just need to take this little work off to the side and determine what 3.14 times 16 is. 6 times 4 is 24. Write the 4, carry the 2. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 2 is 8. 6 times 3 is 18. Now I'm in the tens place, so I need to put a 0 in the ones place. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. Now I just add. 4 plus 0 is 4. 8 plus 4 is 12. Write the 2, carry the 1. 8 plus 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Write the 0, carry the 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Okay, now we just need to determine how many decimal places. So we look at the problem. There's 2 decimal places there, which means our answer is going to have 2 decimal places. So we end up with 50.24. That is the area of the base, 50.24. So I'm going to put that right here, 50.24 centimeters squared. So perfect. Now we know what the area of the base is. The area of the base right here is that entire thing is 50.24. Now we need to determine, well, what is the height of the cylinder? The height of the cylinder is equal to 3 centimeters. So if we want to find the volume, how much space this entire three-dimensional figure holds, we're going to take the volume is found by taking the base and multiplying it by the height. So the base is 50.24 times the height is 3. And I'm just going to take that off to the side. 50.24 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Write the 2, carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. Now I need to determine where to put that decimal place. There's 2 places in the problem, means there needs to be 2 in my answer. So I end up with 150.72. Now the problem states, find the volume of this cylinder to the nearest whole number. And remember, whole numbers, that is 0, 1, 2, 3. They're numbers that are whole, so no decimals, no fractions. So we're going to look at here, this is 7, and the 7 is 5 or above, so that means we round this up to a 1. So the volume of this entire thing is 151 centimeters cubed. All right, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.